My name is Amelia Mask, and this is my pioneer presentation on Albert Bandura, the social learning theory pioneer. Born December 4th, 1925, Albert Bandura began his humble beginning in the small town of Mundare. Located about 50 miles from Edmonton, Mundare is a tiny Canadian hamlet in North Alberta. His parents immigrated from Poland and Ukraine to try their hand at breaking the ground they wished to farm. They struggled, but they persevered and were ultimately successful in their goal. They had 6 children, the youngest of which was Albert. The school that he attended as a young boy was a one-room schoolhouse with 2 teachers. He soon realized that it would be up to him to take charge of his own education, and did he ever. After high school, Albert enrolled at the University of British Columbia as a biological sciences major and came upon his love for psychology quite by accident. He was an ambitious student and always arrived for class far too early and began enrolling in filler courses to bide the time until his planned courses began. One day, someone left a catalog open that highlighted psychology, and it sparked Albert's interest. He found a course that would help him test the waters, and that was all there was to it. He had found his calling. He graduated from the University of British Columbia in a short 3 years in 1949 and went on to graduate school at the University of Iowa. He successfully earned his master's degree in 1951 and his PhD in clinical psychology in 1952. Dr. Bandura married his wife Virginia that same year, and they went on to have 2 daughters, one of which bore him twin grandsons. Albert Bandura's professional career has been amazingly impactful. However, it has also been amazingly short. Immediately after obtaining his PhD, Dr. Bandura was offered a position at Stanford University. He turned down the job offer he previously intended to take and accepted. He began his work at Stanford in 1953 and has continued to work there periodically to this very day. He not only fell in love with the school's mission, but the enjoyable weather and the flexibility to research whatever he wants. Albert Bandura gathered his inspiration from a host of sources. He used his own lower-class upbringing as well as the views of a few other psychological pioneers to guide him. He listed several influences in his biography, including Clark L. Hull, Kenneth Spence, Ronald Akers, and Donald A. Andrews. His interest in social learning and aggression started when he became an instructor of psychology at Stanford University. Robert Sears, the chair of the psychology department, influenced Bandura's studies, and it was his influence that was said to launch Dr. Bandura's passionate research on aggression and social learning. He started his field studies with Richard Walters, who was also his first graduate student. Growing up in a large family surely helped to enlighten his insight into the minds of children, although he did lose a younger sister to the flu and a brother in a hunting accident. He was admittedly influenced also by existing behavior and learning theories. As Dr. Bandura is still alive today, I decided to use this slide to begin the dive into his many accomplishments. He was elected into the presidencies of the American Psychological Association in 1974, the Western Psychological Association in 1981, and was appointed honorary president of the Canadian Psychology Association. He has received awards from the Distinguished Scientific Contributions Award of the American Psychological Association, the Distinguished Scientist Award from Division 12 of the APA, the William James Award of the American Psychological Society for Outstanding Achievements in Psychological Science, the Distinguished Contribution Award from the International Society for Research and Aggression, a Guggenheim Fellowship, the Distinguished Scientific Achievement Award from the California Psychological Association, and the Distinguished Scientist Award of the Society of Behavioral Medicine, as well as receiving 14 honorary degrees from various universities around the world. He's recognized as the greatest psychologist of all times, and in 2015, Bandura was awarded the National Medal of Science by President Barack Obama. In Bandura's world-famous Bobo doll experiments, he laid the groundbreaking foundation for understanding aggression still today. Dr. Bandura separated equal groups of children and let them observe adults in different forms of play with the Bobo doll. One group observed the adults hitting and shouting at the doll, one group observed adults playing gently with the dolls, and one group was not given an example at all. Then the children were allowed to play in a room with the dolls and their behavior was recorded. The results supported Dr. Bandura's 1977 social learning theory, which states that children learn social behavior such as aggression through the process of observational learning, through watching the behavior of another person. What does this mean for the media violence our children today are subject to? It is so critical to understand that children model the behavior that they are exposed to. Social learning really has limitless applications in the world and in the schools especially today. If educators can get a better understanding of Bandura's theory of social learning and use it to adapt surroundings to model exemplary behavior, the children who are exposed only to negative behavior at home will then stand a chance at learning how to behave in a healthy way. This in itself can facilitate positive social changes. Parents and teachers alike can use his studies to understand the extreme consequences of exposing children to media violence in all its forms and limit or prevent entirely their exposure to them. Researchers can use Bandura's studies to help understand why exposure to violence causes violent behavior and develop appropriate treatment plans to help aggressors reform themselves. Albert Bandura defined self-efficacy as one's belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situations or accomplish a task. What does that mean? To me, that means that self-efficacy is how much you think you can do something or complete something. It's almost like your self-confidence and self-worth mixed together. One sense of self-efficacy can play a major role in how one approaches goals, tasks, and challenges. By modeling positive behavior as educators, we can help to guide children to behave in a positive manner as well. By doing so, we can improve their self-efficacy and promote higher self-confidence and boost children's ability to succeed. I'm not sure what could be more important in encouraging success for the students we will teach. I'd like to go back and hit on a couple of things that I did not point out. In this first informational slide, this picture is actually of Bandura High School, which is where Albert Bandura attended. And as you can see, the entire high school class is the size of what some individual grades have today. So he did come from a very small school. In this next slide, this is a picture of the University of Iowa whenever he attended. This is a picture of Dr. Bandura in 1953 when he began at Stanford. And this picture is of the actual Bobo dolls that were used in the experiment. And as you can see, they sort of look like a clown on a punching bag. Kind of creepy. One more fun thing I would like to share with you. In the first informational slide, whenever I was telling about how hard it was for his parents to pave their way, it really was very impactful for Dr. Bandura as a person. I'd like to read you a small part from his autobiography, and it says, In addition to creating a workable farm, my father supervised the layout and construction of the road system in the newly opened Homestead District. The beginning of this pioneer life was a tough struggle. In the first year, a layer of the thatched roof on the house my father built had to be dismantled and fed to the cattle because of a severe drought. Through laborious effort, my father added further sections to the farm. Before long, he was even sporting a Model T Ford, an odd cultural novelty at the time. If that doesn't tell us what a great example Dr. Bandura had to overcome obstacles and achieve your goals, then I don't know what would. I can't even imagine breaking off a piece of my house to feed my livestock. But that's just one really great example of how arduous labor does pay off and how positive adult examples can reiterate that self-efficacy that we were discussing. I hope you enjoyed my slideshow, and I hope that you learned something about Dr. Bandura, and I really enjoyed this assignment. Thank you so much.